Thank you very much. You'll notice my presentation has two names on it, Emily Doyle, who has abandoned us for Pennsylvania, but Emily was my partner in this project. So despite the fact that for some reason she wouldn't join us today, I'm not bitter about that at all. I wanted to make sure that you knew that I did not do this alone. And I also have to acknowledge all of the other Marist librarians who helped with this project because I didn't write 300 plus FAQs by myself. Or if I did, I'd be really, really tired. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we did with our FAQs. We did that using LibAnswers and how we've really kind of upped our game in terms of providing help both for our students, but also for new staff members. And I think a whole bunch of people on the internet, which that'll become clear in just a few minutes. So when we started this project, we had under 100 FAQs, which I know still sounds like a lot of FAQs, but the majority of them were done by our business librarians. And they had a few thrown in of more general topics. My favorite example of a general topic was, I need help with Chicago citation. What should I do? And I was like, that is the most broad question ever. And then there was a link to the Purdue OWL. And that was like, and there was words to go with it, but it wasn't terribly descriptive. It wasn't terribly meeting students at the point of need. So we sat down during COVID and kind of studied what we did. And our content, as I said, didn't correlate with students who were actually asking. Librarians were deciding what they thought students might ask. And they were pretty broad in that thing. And we were the primary users of them because a lot of them were explained business terms that we didn't understand when our business students came and asked us what a value chain was. Right to that FAQ we would go because we didn't really understand. But because of COVID-19, we had time because a lot of our instruction became all virtual and asynchronous, but it also became a need as we watched reference statistics drop off because students were really panicked and stressed about that. And also really not asking us for citation help, which had been a big thing we had done pre-pandemic. So why did we pick citation? Well, that was that primary reason, but we'd always wanted to redo our citation style guide because it was basically a collection of links and here are some manuals and handouts. We wanted to actually offer a list of examples, but we had seen what other people had done and it often was, you could only put so much on a page, resulted in a lot of scrolling, or a lot of tabbed boxes or tabbed guides that they had to navigate through. And we wanted to make it simple. And because things like Purdue OWL and other sources are actually sort of challenging for students, especially first-year students to navigate, you kind of have to know the lingo, the words that they use to describe sources. We're like, we can, and even for ourselves, it's hard for us to remember where they put stuff. We're like, we can make this more simple and make it more engaging for them as well. And as I said, maybe we could reach them at 3 a.m. when they weren't talking to us and had a citation question this way. So how did we decide what went in here? Because there's a lot to citation. We studied our reference questions. We have data going back very long, older than some of the people in this room, I swear to you. And so we looked through and we looked at what were the most commonly asked questions. We picked and chose what seemed most appropriate. We sort of emphasized the tricky ones to start. We deliberately did not do how to cite a book or how to cite a journal article. We have handouts that cover that pretty effectively, and everybody does a really great job handling that. We wanted to handle the things like, what do I do for a website that doesn't have an author? And really clearly explain how that works. How do I cite a YouTube video? Commonly asked question, always confuses students. We also did the really tricky ones, so we didn't have to go, wait, what did we do that time? So it would be documented for ourselves, and we prioritized the big three to start. APA, Chicago, and MLA. We had to do some science ones later for everyone's sanity, including the students. But we really studied what we had at hand to figure out what was a priority for students. We knew we were taking on a big project. We knew we were setting ourselves up for doing a lot of work. And there was the potential for growth. So we decided at the beginning we needed to have a plan. And it was a very loose plan. Nobody sat down and said, here, we'll write a style guide on FAQs, but let's talk about how we're going to format these. What is our tone? What is our structure? And make sure it's consistent. The other thing we talked a lot about it to start was actually making them sound like student questions, which I know sounds really simple, but when somebody's searching something like that, if it's phrased in a way that's recognizable to them, they're more likely to go, oh, that's exactly what I meant. Yes. So we will do, instead of how to cite a video, how do I cite a video from YouTube? And then that actually resonates a little bit more with them because, oh, it's about me. This is what I want to do. And we also make sure we write an answer. And I know that seems also kind of obvious, but many of our questions before had been very brief. Sometimes there was a yes or a no. Sometimes they were downright passive aggressive. I'm not going to lie about that. I need help with citation. Here, Purdue Owl, go. But so we wanted to make sure we not only like provided the exact answer to the question, but wrote it in a way that they'd understand. So where can I print? Instead of there are no, can I print in the library? No, that's not the answer I want to give them. There is no printing in the library. There still isn't any printing in the library, but that's a whole side story. So we tried to make it so that it was very conversational. And we also tried to avoid saying the word no, because it automatically puts them in a negative spot in terms of getting an answer to their question. So we avoided the simple answers, we avoided no, and found ways to tell them no, but nicely. We also stopped linking primarily to outside stuff. We started linking to our deeper collection of help stuff. We'd still answer the question within there. It would be short and it would be brief, but hey, for more details, you need to see this page that we have together on this topic. So much of our stuff linked elsewhere. And one big firm and hard rule from the beginning, there should always be a link that refers them to further help in every single question. Again, very simple, but I want them on the page they're on to go, okay, this didn't answer my need. How do I get more help? And we didn't have that to start. It was a little all over the place in terms of how the previous ones had been done. We rewrote a lot of those. Most of them are either unpublished or don't exist anymore. So it was a good way to start off. The other thing we utilized was LibAnswers lets you organize all of this stuff from the get-go. And I'm not going to lie, our stuff was a little messy to start. And so we came up with big level groups so we could sort questions in a macro level and students could sort them at that macro level. So we have a citation group, we have a policies group, we've got a research group, we've got a whole bunch of groups so students can figure out, hey, I'm not sure what I'm looking for, I can browse this way. The other thing we did, and this had to be cleaned up a lot, was consistent keyword tagging, which takes a lot of work, a lot of hands-on things. But the thing is LibAnswers saves every single one that you ever put in as a keyword. So you start typing and it starts making suggestions. So it actually goes a lot faster as you build this up. So we also do multiple forms, as you can see as my little back end example here. We do every form of the word cite on our questions. We try and think the way students would think. If they're searching for films, I have films, documentaries, and movies in there as possible things to increase their ability to find things. I mean, this doesn't account for misspellings, but it does a pretty good job of trying to help them find what they're looking for. So all of this was something we kind of informally decided amongst the two of us on Zoom on a Thursday afternoon. But it's really helped out as students use them, as we use them, and in managing them, because this enables such ease of updating things. So how did we put these out there? We had an FAQ page, but it's, a search box and a list of questions. There's not a lot of organization. There's not a lot of guidance. It's not to say students weren't using them, but it feels a little overwhelming. So what we did is use something that LibAnswers offers within it. You can create widgets. They're very simple to set up. They offer different options. You can do a search. You can do a list of questions. You pick your option. And then you can organize them. You can put them together by group, by keyword, or you can even cherry pick by hand which questions you want to use and have together as a group. So we did all of this, put them all together, and we made ones that were for specific styles. There's a style page, there's a style widget for each one of them. So you go to the MLA page, there's a box on that LibGuide full of FAQs in bullet list form, so that nobody has to scroll through a lot of things. No one has to go through a tabbed box or a tabbed guide to find anything. It's all just right there. And they can do a Control F if they want to. Or they can use the search bar, which is actually embedded in every single one of these boxes. So we wanted to give them as much ease of access to this stuff as possible. in terms of how they liked this, so we rolled out our big chunk of FAQs over the summer of 2020 into the fall of 2020. And at first, students really didn't appear to be aware of them. And I can't swear that these are all student usage. I will say that. But somebody likes them because we have doubled each year our usage of our FAQs. And honestly, I have published new FAQs recently, and within a week, I have 10 plus views on it. I think Google is helping, to be honest, because of how we've worded the questions. People are typing things into Google, and because of how we've worded the questions, it's answering their questions. But they are very popular amongst us, ourselves, our students, and the wider internet. And I wanted to share with you the top 10 questions. Every year, how to indent the second line of citations in Google Docs is the most popular every year. I have also gotten feedback on that question, and they get real mad at how complicated it is. And I'm just like, but this is how it works. I'm sorry that that upsets you. I'm not kidding. I've gotten 2 cranky comments about that one. I don't know why. But like some of this tech stuff that is easily findable through Google, people are accessing through us. I will say the social media ones have kicked into this list pretty high. The image one comes up fairly frequently with us. TED Talk isn't that old. It's already got 1,000 views. So, and this is pulled recently. So the previous chart was up to last year. This is current. So they are getting used, and it's a variety of things that are getting used. So this was pretty successful. We liked this plan. We thought this was good. How can we take it past citation? Because there was a lot of other information we had about the library, policies, procedures, that we could put out there in a different way. So we started with COVID-19 policies. We rolled out FAQ groups for posting, for how to put a hold on a book. What was the new food and drink policy? What's the deal with printing? Like, here was our FAQ group, which were all, of course, tagged with COVID-19 as a keyword, so we could find them again. So all of this stuff got rolled out as ways for people to find this information relatively quickly. We used that how to put a hold on a book on various course guides, subject guides. It was all over the place for faculty and students who were using a lot of books in their courses. We then took it a step further. We put all of the things we wrote up in paragraph and bullet form for student use of the library spaces, borrowing privileges, faculty questions about course guides, reserves, and turned it all into FAQs. So instead of block paragraphs and different boxes on a LibGuide, we have bulleted questions of, hey, here's how instruction works. Here's how booking a library classroom works. Not us, but they get that information, and then they get information on where to go so that they can more quickly find this without having to weed through that whole paragraph, because students aren't the only one who don't like to read through a whole paragraph of stuff. And because every policy is in a FAQ, we update one place, one time. That's me beeping. Don't ask any questions about it. And now they can search them. We never had this searchable in any place, anywhere before. So even if they don't go to our student guide or our faculty guide, they can search them in the big FAQ search. So all of this information was locked on one page and is now available in so many other places. And then the other thing we've been doing, because we've documented so much policy, because we've documented so much citation, is we encourage our new staff members and even old staff members, hey, that's written in an FAQ. You should go look through the FAQs. And a lot of our new librarians, we have one who is from a public library who has not done a lot of citation help. She is using it to school herself in all of this citation stuff. She also uses it for things like, hey, someone asked me for the first time ever, which comes out every 3 years, about a notary. I know that's in the FAQs. I know we're the campus notary because it's in an FAQ. Yeah, the impossible to find notary. They're everywhere, but you can't find them. So this has become a really great tool for teaching staff. So how do we maintain this behemoth that I've just told you all about? So we monitor our FAQs intentionally, but also sort of by our own observation. We tag the ones we know we need updates with current semester, so we revisit those every semester. Because we use them with students, our eyes are on them all the time. I use them in class, I use them at the desk. So if we see something that's funky, we make a note. We also have regular FAQ meetings and FAQ department-wide annual projects. We've done a couple things. And we do know that when a citation manual updates, we are facing a major update. But I've tagged it and it's all grouped and it won't be hard, I promise. Or at least that's what I'm hoping. We now have 4 or 5 people at a time writing these. So we continue to meet and kind of approve the content. So we are continuing that tone and structure and the same standards we've developed. We've also learned that we should not provide information about other offices or our hours or things like that in written form, but should instead, hey, this is where they're located. Here's where you can find their hours and services. Very simple things, but saves a lot of maintenance. We've also developed some standards for how we format things, and this was actually a big project. Every citation example gets a diagram explaining what the parts are, as well as an example source. We also make sure we create our own sources examples, so we're not plagiarizing. And each style gets its own question because we had to divide up a whole bunch of them, and because we had Chicago and APA and MLA all in one question for a while there, and it was just too much for students to look at. So we've actually moved a little bit beyond and have come up with here's the hard and fast rules. What do we plan to do next? So as you can see, our FAQ creation has tapered off. Doesn't mean we're not doing those any longer. We still have a whole list of them we want to do. But we're actually hoping to publicize these a bit more directly to our students because, as I said, I have no great way of tracking who's using them. And we're trying to hopefully place them more prominently in our next website update so students can go right there from the homepage instead of having to go down a level to find this information. Anyone have any questions? And yes, you can scan the QR code and go look at the things.